Luke Martin, venture coinist, crypto investment strategist. I'm here from LA, teaming up with Matt Brown of The Matt Brown Show and Ran, host of the Crypto Trader Show. So we're going to be talking about where the crypto market is going in 2018, investments, coins, and trading strategies. Excited to see you guys there.
You are a trading master. You see trading opportunities where others see coincidences. Charts and patterns are everywhere. You can run with the bulls or be at one with the bears. So don't waste another pip and take your talents to eToro. See why so many top traders choose us as their main trading platform. Start trading on eToro today.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.
Good evening and welcome to this very special edition of CNBC Africa's Crypto Trader. Sponsored by eToro, the people that make trading assets and crypto assets a whole lot easier. Tonight we're coming to you live from Johannesburg, South Africa, where we've partnered up with the Matt Brown Show to bring you a never-seen-before crypto spectacular. CNBC has partnered up with Matt Brown and flown in venture coinist all the way from Los Angeles. Venture coinist, or Luke Martin, has over 100,000 followers on Twitter. And if you're not following him on Twitter, I suggest you start following him now, because this is one of those guys that's right more times than he is wrong. And speaking of Twitter, if you want to join the conversation here tonight, you can get me on Twitter at CryptoManRun with the hashtag CryptoTraderZA. So without further ado, welcome to South Africa. Welcome to Crypto Trader.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Luke, 2017. We start the year off at a market cap of $16 billion, and we finish at $600 billion. Do you think we'll ever see a year like 2017 in crypto ever again?
I'm not sure we see the multiple that we saw this year, but I do think we're going to continue to see hundreds of billions of dollars flow into this asset class.
How was your personal performance in 2017?
I think everyone can kind of agree here. If you were invested at all in 2017, it was a pretty good year. I measure myself against Bitcoin, and if I'm able to beat that, I'm doing pretty well, and I was able to do that.
So I think you've set yourself up for something. You measure yourself against Bitcoin, which means that you don't look at your profits in US dollars or fiat currency. So I'm going to ask you a question. If I buy a token for 5 US cents, and I sell it for 10 US cents, and I double my money, but at the same time, Bitcoin's gone up 4 times in value. In your books, have I made money or have I lost money?
When I'm looking at trading, I'm thinking of things in terms of opportunity cost. What that means is if you made money on that trade in paper, you might have to pay taxes on that. But if you're thinking about trading, should you have actually made that trade? If you wouldn't have, you'd have more Bitcoin. At the end of the day, when you need to cash out that token, you're going to have to go back into Bitcoin, so you probably have less money. So
you measure your net wealth in Bitcoin. How do you measure the total market cap? Do you measure the total market cap in number of Bitcoin, or do you measure the total market cap in US dollars?
Well, since Bitcoin is priced in US dollars, and that's liquidity for Bitcoin, I would use US dollars.
Okay, that's a pretty interesting opinion, because on the one hand, you're looking at Bitcoin, looking at your profits in Bitcoin, but the total market cap in US dollars. Let's move from there. Let's talk about Bitcoin and the run that we've had into altcoins. So if we looked at last year in June, Bitcoin was trading at about 2,000 US dollars, finished the year at around 16,000 US dollars. And it seems that now people are taking their money and running from Bitcoin to altcoins. What's happening? Why is that flow of money happening?
Yeah, so I'm a technical analyst. I like to look at the charts, and since there's no way to really value these assets in terms of a book value, like a company or cash flows, I'm looking at how they're valued relative to Bitcoin's terms. At the beginning of December 10th, I made the call that alts were valued extremely cheap. They had touched that support, that year-long support, and were ready to make a resurgence. And looking back December to where we are now, most of them are up about 1 or 10 or even 20 times.
So I followed your Twitter calls, and I followed the call that you made where Bitcoin, where you called the alts to start rising. I think that was around the 10th of December, more or less. And I think you called it spot on, because I think from that point, we've really seen this alt run. What mechanism were you using to make that call?
Yeah, so I try to keep it as simple as I can, right? I use a very simple, it's a line tool, just connecting the two troughs, or the bottoms to the tops, and that gives me a channel. When ETH touches the bottom of that channel, it's valued cheap. You're able to get the most alt for your Bitcoin, the most bang for your buck at that price. So I shifted the allocation heavier towards alts. They were priced fairly, and they've moved up since.
Have you got that chart? Can we call up that chart, and can we actually analyze this chart?
Yeah. pull it up here. I think the monitors are loading here.
So while we're waiting, I'm just going to clarify for those guys that don't understand what Luke's doing. He's plotting a graph of Ethereum versus Bitcoin and the relationship between Ethereum and Bitcoin. And he's using Ethereum as an indicator for the entire altcoin market. So because Ethereum is theoretically the largest altcoin, he's using the graph of Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and he's calling up that graph onto our screens now.
Correct. So you touched on it really nice. I use Ethereum as representative of the entire alt market because it is the largest alt. And if you look at most alts, they actually follow this pattern pretty similarly. So we're looking back, this is 2016, so we're just going to look at 2017 forward, starting at this white circle. This was the beginning of the previous alt cycle. At the very beginning of 2017, January 2017, you can see them trending up versus Bitcoin, meaning I'm not worried about, they are making a higher dollar price, but they're also making a higher Bitcoin price. Back in June of 2017, this is when they peaked in Bitcoin terms. So if you would have invested into an alt or traded into an alt in June up to December, you were losing Bitcoin value for those alts. I just lost it?
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is you might have still seen your US dollar value go up. So this is what I've talked with Ran about, and I talk with so many guys online about all the time, is the opportunity cost of being in that alt is being in Bitcoin. So if you invested in that alt, sure, US dollar value is going up, but eventually when you cash out, you now have less Bitcoin, so you have less cash. If you wouldn't have invested in that alt, you would have more money. The kind of hint that I got this cycle was going to start over was it came back to the bottom of this channel. So if this is the channel support, this green line, we have the channel resistance up here. This is where alts are expensive in Bitcoin terms. This is where they're cheap in Bitcoin terms. I saw us drifting down here. I wanted to let the chart confirm. So once we did get it confirmed here about December 10th, this is when I made the call, be a little bit more aggressive in alts, maybe push those targets out further, initiate some of those longer term plays, because if you can move your Bitcoin into alts at this point, you're probably going to be getting a higher Bitcoin return and also a higher USD return.
So if I look at this chart now, we're about halfway through the channel, and
Correct.
What the indication is that we're going to break through and go towards the top red line.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This is something that I'm kind of just waiting to see. I'm actually anticipating a bit of a consolidation, meaning that this middle of the channel could be used as resistance. So we kind of saw alts. I made this call about 2 days ago. Alts, I'm going to wait for a dip. I think they're expensive now. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. When they're along support, they have a higher chance of using that support for a next move up. When they're along resistance, they have a better chance of being stopped. So we just saw it hit that. I'm going to wait to place some more trades or move into more positions until we can get maybe a little move down. If it does confirm past this, then yes, I expect alts to continue towards the top of the channel.
What is fundamentally causing this move to alts? I mean, we're seeing it on the graph, but what's the human psychology that's driving this altcoin up? Are consumers looking at Bitcoin and going, it's a $250 billion market cap, we want to try and get the new Bitcoin? What's happening in these investors' minds?
Yeah, that's certainly happening. So investor psychology is so important to take into account, especially for people that got in later, right? They're always looking for the next Bitcoin. I find it funny how many Reuters or Financial Times articles they publish as, is this the next Bitcoin? I think Ripple was quoted as the next Bitcoin, and Bitcoin Cash is the next Bitcoin. People are looking for a cheaper coin where they can earn a higher multiple, and especially when things are trending up, they're gonna jump on board.
So today we're seeing an ICO frenzy. If you can get your hands onto any token, you take as many as you can get. And we've seen some of these tokens launch at 50 and 100 times their money. Mm-hmm. Is it not a bubble? Has it not gone crazy? Are we not in crazy territory?
I do think it could be a bubble, but I also think good things are going to come out of it, right? So this massive fundraising is going to fundraise projects that are going to disrupt other industries. Yes, we could definitely continue to see corrections of 30 or 40 or 50% or even greater. It's a hyper volatile asset. But, I try not to think of that. I try to zoom out and think of the bigger picture. The total market cap is going to continue to go up. Looking at where gold is, it's $6 trillion and we're only at $800 billion. So relatively speaking, we're still pretty small.
So let's talk about how you make investment decisions. We've just entered into 2018, and we're going into a new trading year. How are you evaluating what you're going to put your money into? What's your process? How do you start and finish it off first as to how you actually invest?
Yeah, so how I invest, I think of everything in macro terms. As you can see from my charts, or if you follow me on Twitter, a lot of guys kind of dive into a project and say, you know, should I invest in this coin? Should I invest in this coin? And just go on the coin's website. I like to think of things in terms of the entire market. So I think of them in terms of sectors. So 3 sectors that I really like are investing in smart contract platforms or protocols. This is the infrastructure for this whole space. Then you have privacy coins. And then after that, you also have decentralized exchanges.
So what you're saying is the first thing that you do is you look for sectors in the economy that are going to be disrupted by blockchain. Once you've made that decision, you then start analyzing the individual tokens, or where do you go from there?
Yeah, so once I have a sector picked out, let's say it's decentralized exchanges, I'm going to look in there. What is the biggest player? What do I think has the most potential, the healthiest kind of project, the strongest team? For decentralized exchanges, I think it's ZRX. They have the most kind of activity going on in their ecosystem. And then maybe I look smaller. If I am looking to take a larger risk, I'm going to look at a coin that maybe has a smaller market cap. So another coin that I'm looking at in there is Kyber.
So I don't want to go into the specific coins yet because I want to give the guys a macro view of how we make decisions. Okay. Let's talk about the 3 sectors. So you mentioned that you're into privacy, you're into interoperability, and you're into decentralized exchanges. Correct. What is a decentralized exchange? For those members of the audience and for those who are watching us on YouTube and on CNBC, what is the difference between a Bitfinex or a Binance and one of these decentralized exchanges?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is the level of security. So right now, exchanges are kind of the centralized point of failure for the entire system. The appeal with cryptocurrencies is you control the private key, correct? You're your own bank. When you log into one of these exchanges and when you keep your Bitcoin on the exchange, if the exchange goes under or the exchange gets hacked, all that cryptocurrency is gone. What the decentralized exchange allows you to do is it allows it to transform back into a peer-to-peer system. We don't need Bitfinex for me to exchange a currency with you. We would connect to the decentralized exchange and send tokens that way.
So there's buyers and sellers of tokens with bids and offers just like a normal exchange, but the tokens and the money never ever hit an exchange.
Correct.
Which means that your money is never ever tied up in an exchange, it's always in your own wallet.
Or in a smart contract, correct.
Great, so you mentioned that there are a few players in this game in this sector that you're looking at. The first one that you mentioned is 0x. And I think 0x is the buzzword in the industry. It recently got listed on Bitfinex. Mm-hmm. I was watching it the day that it got listed, and I think it went up to $2.50. I haven't looked at it today. I'm assuming it's around $2. It's valued at a very high valuation. What's behind 0x? Why are you so bullish on it?
I'm so bullish on it, and I actually spoke with a developer last night who is also bullish on it. The reason being there's so many different other projects being built on top of it. So Radar Relay, DXDY, derivatives platform. It's a really healthy ecosystem of teams already adopting that protocol.
Let's talk about development teams on a protocol. So we're working in a decentralized model, which means that in most of these decentralized models, there's not one development team working on it. So how do you evaluate the strength of the development team that is building around something like 0x?
What a lot of guys like to do, and what I also do, is I actually just check their activity. It's sometimes simple. So check their activity on things like Twitter. Check their community. You could also go into the GitHub and look at pull requests and things like that. I'm not so technical in terms of that, so I don't use that. But I want to see that there's activity going on. There's communication between the team and those token holders. So those are kind of the first things I look at. So
the 3 entry points that everyone's talking about in decentralized exchanges are Omisago, Kyber Network, and of course 0x. Let's move on to anonymity coins. I know this is a very hot topic because some people still believe that the blockchain in its current format is anonymous. It's not, because we can track every single transaction. What attracts you to this anonymity sector?
Yeah, so correct. It's almost halfway anonymous, right? It's anonymous in the sense that you don't have your name attached to a bank account, but all those tokens are traceable. It's completely auditable, completely transparent, which is great. There are definitely some positives to that. But in terms of sending transactions, sending certain coins, you could always track it back to you. And for some corporations and some use cases, it's probably not the best idea for everyone to walk around and kind of have their bank account printed online.
So the anonymity coins basically hide the transactions in such a way that you don't actually get to see what the transactions are. Now, for those people who think that this is all about smuggling drug money and stuff like that, it's not. Some organizations have amazing trading terms, and they don't want their competitors to see when they pay the money or how much they get paid. So if you think about Woolworths buying a ton of apples from an apple farmer, they don't want people to see that they made the payment on certain terms. So that's what the anonymity coins are actually for. When we talk about anonymity coins, what are your 3 favorites?
My 3 favorites, I'm going to go with Monero, just being the largest. Something a little bit more risky, and my personal favorite is going to be Z-Coins. That's XZC. The reason I like that, it has that passive nature to it too. If you hold enough coins, you can run a Z node and pretty much earn interest for holding those coins. And then the third one is going to be Z Classic, but that's for a different reason.
So I must say this to all our viewers. There are a lot of Zs when it comes to privacy coins. Z Classic is not the same as Z Cash, and Z Coin is not the same as... Let's talk about Monero. Why do you like Monero?
I like Monero, first of all, because it is the largest, so it has the largest network. It also defaults to private transactions. That's one of kind of the criticisms of other privacy coins is there's a feature to turn it on or off, and that a lot of those transactions aren't actually private. With Monero, it defaults.
And Monero is a truly decentralized project. I mean, I spent some time with Fluffy Pony, or Riccardo Spagni, and he's the lead maintainer, and he misses some of the dev meetings. So this is truly a project that's decentralized and doesn't rely on a single developer. Unlike a Litecoin or an Ethereum, which are actually quite reliant on people like Charlie Lee or Vitalik. Let's talk about the concept of staking coins. For those people in the audience and watching on Twitter, on YouTube, who don't know what staking coins is, how does it work?
So staking coins, you hold your coins in an actual wallet, and then for holding your coins in that wallet, the easiest way to explain it is you're pretty much earning interest in the form of more coins. So if you hold 1,000 Z coins and you're running a Z node, you are paid. It's every time a block is found, there's a percentage that goes to those Z nodes holding a Z node.
So they're making the assumption that if you own the coins, you're part of the network and you're a contributor to the network, and therefore they reward you with this interest payment, which is actually kind of a dividend as to what the network is making.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Bitcoin fork, the one that promises to be anonymous, because I know you're quite excited about that one.
Yeah, so this is one of the first Bitcoin forks that I would actually see a use case that I'm going to use it with. I primarily use Bitcoin as a store of value, but Bitcoin Private is going to be coming out from Z Classic. So right now, if you're holding one Bitcoin, you're also going to get one Bitcoin Private. The play with privacy coins is if you're holding one Z Classic coin, you also get one Bitcoin Private. So Bitcoin, Z Classic being priced around, I don't know, $170, and Bitcoin's at 15K, you can see why people are jumping into Z Classic to claim those Bitcoin Private coins.
Just for the sake of clarity, can you give us the symbol for the Z Classic token so people don't buy the wrong token?
Correct. It's ZCL, and that's not a recommendation to buy. Yeah.
Great. Are you tracking the Z Classic chart at the moment? Is that one of the charts that you're tracking at the moment?
I don't have it up right here, but yeah, I have been tracking it. It's extremely overextended. That's kind of why I said it's not a recommendation to buy. I got in about 10 times lower, but in fact, I do think it does still have room to run. And I'm only saying that I'm valuing it looking at the comparable Bitcoin forks. So if you look at where Bitcoin Cash is, Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Gold, they're all valued at $300, $400, $500. Bitcoin Private right now, I'm taking this price from Z Classic, and that means it still has another couple $100 to run. When
is the Bitcoin private fork actually going to happen? Because I've been watching their Twitter and all their other accounts, and they're not very specific about a date. They mentioned that it's coming up soon, and we're going to have some great news, but they're not very specific about a date.
Correct. So that's the biggest risk with holding Z Classic and kind of waiting for that. It's the speculation that this thing actually occurs. And when it occurs. So it hasn't been announced yet.
So there's another privacy coin that's deep in the makings. I don't know if you've heard anything about it. It's the Nimblewimble privacy coin. You haven't heard about it? Well, if you haven't heard about it, do some homework because it is one of the new privacy coins that's coming out, and it does have a great development team behind it. Interoperability. It's the next big word. Just explain to our viewers what interoperability is and why it's such a problem.
Yeah, so interoperability and that isn't really a problem yet, but the problem that it's going to solve, it's kind of a decentralized exchange combining a few different things. We've already seen network congestion happen with Bitcoin. We've seen it happen with Ethereum, with CryptoKitties. These chains aren't able to interact with each other yet. And if a project could allow them to interact to each other, provide liquidity for the other chains, and allow you to exchange tokens between them, that'd be huge.
So what you're saying is, because we can't solve the scaling problem on the Bitcoin or Ethereum network, the problem may go away if we combine all the blockchains and say, whatever highway has got capacity, you can take this. But today, what's happening is there's no conversion metric that can take you from the Litecoin network into the Bitcoin network or the Bitcoin network into the Ethereum network. Who are the big players to look out for when we talk about interoperability in blockchains?
Yeah, so the one project that I'm most optimistic for and looking out for is WanChain. And they also have an interoperability alliance with Icon and Aeon. But I'm more excited for WanChain.
WanChain, the ICO happened late last year, and we've all put our money in. When are they going to release the blockchain? And by virtue of releasing the blockchain, we could finally get our tokens.
Yeah, so it's another one of those, they still haven't released the date. Judging by the way they worded their last update, there's a party on the 18th in Miami for that Bitcoin Miami conference. It seems like they also have a big announcement, so I'm kind of watching the 18th.
I want to move on, and I want to move on to ICOs because they are all the rage right now. I've been following some Twitter groups and some Telegram groups, and I've seen people throw hundreds of thousands of dollars without even reading a white paper. Run me through the process of how you personally decide whether or not you're going to put money into an ICO, and how you decide about the quantum of money that you're going to put into an ICO.
Yeah, so I try to use an objective approach. I want to use a systematic approach that's following some set of rules. My friend Ian Bellina kind of pioneered this technique of putting them all in a spreadsheet and breaking them up into different categories. So you might give team and qualitative a certain category and give that a score. You might look at token metrics and look at the market cap, what their burn mechanism is or what their total supply is, token price, and give that a score. And then I also look at another unique category, and that's the token sale process. Do they have a whitelist? Is this thing oversubscribed? You get a really good sentiment or an understanding of how much demand there is for it. If a project hits an exchange and it's oversubscribed, that already means there's more people wanting to buy that token than we're able to get in. So the price will probably go up.
The problem is that we in this room are hearing about the ICOs after they've happened or after the whitelist is closed. How do you stay abreast of what's actually coming up?
Yeah, information overflow is probably one of the biggest problems in the space. How I do it, I have an extensive network of investors and co-investors and teams that constantly reach out to me. One way that I would suggest is start a group with other guys in the room, maybe people that you came with, and really try to narrow down where you're getting your information. Follow guys like Ian or follow guys like you or myself who focus on this all day long.
Yeah, I know also attending the conferences has got great benefits because they have an ICO pitch section, and you tend to find the ICOs when they're still raising pre-ICO round financing. So I think a word of advice is if you can, and if you're not full-time employed, or if you're thinking of spending some more time in crypto, maybe you should tell your boss you're sick and you can go into the go to the ICO conferences. There's a conference next week in Miami, which we'll be covering on CNBC Crypto Trader. There's another one in London the following week, which we'll be covering again. I've spent some time with the best crypto analysts. I really have. I've spent a lot of time with the guys in the US and the guys that really know a lot. And I think the one takeout that I've got is that no one knows how to evaluate the value of a token. So do you look at a token? Do you really have a spreadsheet that shows the burn rate? How do you decide whether the token is over or undervalued, other than the charts, which we're going to dig into?
No, I really don't. I don't have a spreadsheet that's tracking all that information. I do use the charts, and I use that macro perspective and seeing where alts are. Are they priced cheap? Are they, is the value still there? Is there good momentum? And then after that, I just look at comparable projects. So if I'm looking at something like ZRX versus Kyber, I look at the total addressable market or what they're trying to solve, and maybe what another project is valued at. So you sound like you're applying an investing approach rather than a trading approach, because you can't, there's no charts on ICOs. Do you have two portfolios? Do you hold two bags? Do you hold like an investing bag and then you hold this like gung-ho cowboy bag that you trade with? I don't think of the second bag as that, but I do break them apart, and that's actually one thing, that's the one recommendation that I will give to everyone that I talk to, and that's splitting your positions from either trades or investments. So whether or not you hold two separate portfolios, that's up to you, but knowing the time horizon that you want to be in that position before you go into it. Something like Z Classic, the time horizon is really just to hold until the fork, as opposed to something like ZRX. Decentralized Exchange is where I want to be positioned, so that's an investment.
But you got me very confused now, because you told me that you believe in privacy and anonymity as a sector. At the same time, you're telling me that you've got an exit point. Now, I'm confused about how someone can have an exit point, how anyone can have an exit point. The blockchain technology is not yet developed, or it is developed, but it's not yet implemented. We haven't seen the potential of blockchain. It's like saying I want to invest in the internet back in 1998, but then exiting Amazon because as much as you believe in internet shopping, you've got yourself a top. Explain the difference to me. How can you believe in blockchain, how much it's going to disrupt the world, but then at the beginning of the race, you've set yourself an exit target?
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about Z Classic. I think it's more helpful to talk about it in terms of the entire alt market once again. So going back to that ETH BTC chart, if I see us rise back to the top of the channel, It's nice to say after the fact, and looking at where Bitcoin was in 2013, you can say, if I would have held, or all of 2017, if I just would have held, I would have had a higher return. What a lot of people don't realize is the risk tolerance might not be that high. So maybe you see that 30 or 40% drawdown, and right when it's about 20%, that's when you sell, and then you don't get back in. If you have some kind of strategy that's helping you to try to get out at least near the top, I'm never going to be perfect, but if I can reduce risk and sell some of that near the top, that helps me to reduce the downside exposure.
What other sectors are you looking at? What other tokens are you looking at?
Other tokens, also in NEO, that's probably one of my favorite trades right now because it's probably the only one moving up.
So it's one of your favorite trades, and it's one of my fundamental, most favorite investments. So let's talk about why it's a good trade at the moment, and let's then talk about why it's a good investment at the moment.
Yeah, so the setup for me, or what hinted me onto NEO, was the kind of the lineup of ICOs they have coming out for January. So I think they're going to continue to steal market share from Ethereum. Ethereum has that first mover advantage. They have the most projects, the most developers and stuff like that. But as these ICOs and DApps start to get built on NEO, I'm more bullish.
Great. We're going to cut to a commercial break for our CNBC viewers, and after the break, we'll take a look at the NEO charts and why Venture Coinist is looking at buying NEO.
You are a trading master. You see trading opportunities where others see coincidences. Charts and patterns are everywhere. You can run with the bulls or be at one with the bears. So, don't waste another pip and take your talents to eToro. See why so many top traders choose us as their main trading platform. Start trading on eToro today.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.
Welcome back. If you're watching on CNBC, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about NEO, and we were talking about the difference as to whether it's an investment or a trade. And Luke Martin's going to call up the NEO chart and tell us why he thinks that the NEO is a great trade at the moment. From an investment point of view, I've been watching NEO, I've been speaking to the founders of NEO, and I've watched the progress that they've made. When I spoke to them earlier this year, they were just 6 developers. They've now got a whole team. You may recall that when they launched NEO, or when Anches became NEO, etc., we had this ban of cryptocurrencies in China, and everybody thought that because of the ban of cryptocurrencies, NEO was going to die. Well, it hasn't died, and I've seen it trading at over $150 in certain of the chat groups. Luke, if you'll just show us in the graph where we're at.
Yeah, once it pulls up. There it is. So let's dive in here. I think this is NEO. So I'm not sure I actually like an entry anymore, but I'll kind of review my thought process for how I did pick this out as a trade. And like I said, that lineup of ICOs coming out on NEO was the hint for me. So looking at NEO, I'm going to zoom out here so we can see. I'm also going to use a daily time frame just to give us a big picture. So we're looking at NEO, and this is the peak back here of NEO, all-time high in Bitcoin terms. It broke out of this downtrend. This is the blue line here, and I wanted to enter. Now that there's that lineup of ICOs coming out, this is something I want exposure to. So I didn't want to jump in when I'm seeing all these green candles. I wanted to jump in on a pullback so I could get it at the best possible price. The way that I found out that pullback, I'm just looking at local highs and local bottoms kind of and shifting them over. So this is a support zone that I wanted to look for. Zooming in, I think we were about here when I kind of gave this on Twitter and I was working with my traders and also submitted the order myself. Submitted the order right down here along support. So this is where we had support previously. It had already moved. I didn't catch it back here. I didn't want to chase these candles, so I just submitted the bid. Price fell right back down to support. We call that a retest entry, and it's moving right up along. The final target for this trade is just the extended swing high. All-time high of Bitcoin up here.
So at what price are you selling your NEO? Have you got a sell order in today?
I don't have my sell order in right now. I didn't think it would actually move up this quick.
Okay, so before we say goodbye to our CNBC viewers, I want to look at the EDG chart. I know you're one of the guys that has been calling it on Twitter. For those of you who don't know, it's the casino coin, and they've got a casino license or a gaming license. And Luke's been trading the range of this coin.
Yep.
Show us what you've been trading there.
Yeah, so I've been trading this range. This has probably been one of my favorite coins to trade for the past month, mostly because we are already able to catch the trade twice. So previously, they were looking for a license announcement, and this is the all-time low. So when I'm looking at ranges, this is the support, this is the resistance, and then we have the identical range up here. And I'm just pulling that from where there's been previous support and previous resistance. So I wanted to enter along all-time low support. We were able to catch a 2x right here, meaning if you put in 1 Bitcoin, you were able to earn 2 Bitcoins. And now, once again, I actually believe this exact pattern is going to repeat. So this being the support or the entry zone, this all-time high being the target. The launch of that casino is supposed to come out on January 18th. I think that's going to push us up.
What happened at the green candle? There's a massive green candle which took you out of your midpoint. What happened?
Yeah, exactly. So this is how inefficient this market is, in the fact that there's no Bloomberg or anything streaming all this news. The way that I found out about this license is I'm monitoring, and I have all this information coming to me, but I'm monitoring Telegram rooms, and I knew that the license announcement was supposed to come by the end of the year. So I got in, all-time low support here, and this is when they actually announced the license. This is the market reacting to Edgeless now having a license to run that online casino, which is a boost fundamentally, something that you like to look at, and boosted the price up.
Okay, so what's your sell level on people that are buying Edgeless?
So this is the entry level, and I actually think it could drop back down. Even if not, and you were to get in now, the sell that I'm looking to set is up here. I can't read that number. It's a little bit far away from my eyes. But that's the all-time high. It's the top.
But it looks like it's got a long way to go.
It's the top of this range, correct. It has about 80 or 90% to go.
Luke, it's been amazing having you on CNBC Africa's Crypto Trader. We're going to say farewell to our CNBC viewers. If you want to carry on watching this, you can log on to the YouTube channel, which is CNBC Crypto Trader, or you can follow us on Twitter at CryptoManRun, and we'll be sending you live updates. Remember that next week we'll be coming to you from Miami and from London, and we'll be covering those conferences for you live. You can catch those on my Twitter at CryptoManRun. Until next time, trade well, my friends.
You are a trading master. You see trading opportunities where others see coincidences. Charts and patterns are everywhere. You can run with the bulls or be at one with the bears. So, don't waste another pip and take your talents to eToro. See why so many top traders choose us as their main trading platform. Start trading on eToro today.
Crypto Trader is proudly brought to you by eToro. Discover a simpler way to trade and invest in cryptocurrencies and more.